Hey, good evening, Crime Crunchies. Thank you so much for joining me here this evening. I am your host, Courtney C., a 27-year veteran of the media, and I am so happy to be bringing you Crime Crunchies. We are going to be diving back into Nancy Guthrie this evening as usual, but we have a few updates that I wanted to cover tonight. And the first one is really the main focus this evening, and that is that there is information out there that the investigation has now turned into a no body homicide investigation. And it probably has been a no body homicide investigation for at least a few months now, but having it labeled thusly really does bring, a sense of just finality to this whole thing, and the idea that this poor woman's remains may never be found. And if they do have a suspect, it's very possible that they may never have a body in order to, use during trial as far as cause of death, any additional evidence about the case, finality for the family, etc. And it would basically just be based on not necessarily circumstantial evidence, but definitely digital evidence and digital footprint. So it makes it a little bit harder, but they can do it. So let's dive in, and I'm going to take a look at a few things tonight. We're going to start with an article talking about the fact that this is now being officially titled a no body homicide. And while I'm getting this set up, please subscribe, like, and turn on your little bell button. That would be amazing. So, all right, let's dive in. So Nancy Guthrie kidnapping case upgraded to no body murder investigation in latest twist. All right, we know that Nancy, the mother of today co-host Savannah Guthrie, has been missing from her Arizona home for about 4 months since February 1st, 2026. The Nancy Guthrie case has turned a twist. The investigation into the disappearance of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, mother of NBC's Today Show co-anchor Savannah Guthrie, has reached a critical and grim juncture. The case, termed as the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping case, is now labeled as a no body murder investigation, after the search failed to find any trace of Nancy, who vanished from her home outside Tucson earlier this year. Police have reclassified the long-running kidnapping case as a murder investigation despite the absence of a recovered body. And we all knew it was a murder investigation. There's just no way it wasn't. But again, there's just a sense of finality having it labeled as a no body homicide. Investigators have escalated the case, treating it as a homicide investigation even without physical remains. The latest update comes as the case, which began as a standard missing person report, has steadily shifted into darker territory as time has passed without sightings, clear leads, or confirmed evidence that she left of her own accord. For a public more used to seeing Savannah reporting the news than living it, the slow drip of developments has been both unsettling and strangely distant, anchored in legal terms and law enforcement procedure. Police in Arizona are quietly preparing for the possibility that missing 84-year-old grandmother Nancy Guthrie was murdered, as U.S. prosecutors say her disappearance near Tucson could be the basis of a full no-body homicide case. At the center of that shift is Tad D. I'm gonna murder this one. I shouldn't have said that. I'm not gonna say this right, is what I meant to say. Tad DiBiase, a former federal prosecutor who has spent 2 decades specializing in so-called no-body murder cases. Speaking to journalist Brian Enton, DiBiase said he now believes Nancy's disappearance could be prosecuted as a homicide, even if human remains are never recovered. Authorities say new evidence has led to a shift in the case status from kidnapping to suspected murder. So even if they don't have a body at this point, it is being considered a homicide. And again, we've not really heard that term bandied about. And we all have known that Nancy's not with us. And there's just no way that she could still be with us unless there is a miracle. But the fact that investigators are absolutely, increasing the stature of this to a no body homicide is definitely a sense of finality. And Brian, and let me turn this off. Let me switch over to Brian Enton. This is a short that he had, so it's going to be a little bit harder for me to get this, but I'm going to try and get little Brian Enton up here.
Hey guys, some people have asked me what happens if they don't find Nancy Guthrie? What if they don't find her remains? And I hate to say that. I mean, obviously the hope is that there's a miracle and that she'll be alive, but just sort of being realistic. If they don't find her, how would a prosecution work if they ever made an arrest? I actually spoke with a no body homicide prosecutor. He's an expert in prosecuting no body homicides.
So even though my area of expertise is when you don't have a body, I always counsel continue to look for the body, particularly, in this case, it's only been 4 months, which is not a long time to be able to find remains and things like that. So do I think this case ultimately could be tried successfully as a no body murder case? Yes. Do I think it would be way better if they were able to find a body or remains? Absolutely.
Does it surprise you that they really haven't been searching for remains? From what I mean, and I was out there for quite some time. They had dogs in the very beginning. They had a search plane up in the very beginning, but it seemed like once they realized that this was not just a missing person, we haven't seen any widespread searches. We haven't, we haven't seen grid searches. We haven't seen them go out into the desert. Does that surprise you?
Yes, it does, because even given the suspected circumstances of this case, which I think, without knowing exactly what happened, it seems to be a kidnapping that likely led to a homicide. But most of the time, after the most common disposal area for a no body murder is in water. The second most is what I call sort of buried in the woods or left behind in the woods, even though I just mean the outdoors. There's not a lot of woods in Arizona. It's desert, but that is still a possibility.
Hey guys, some people have asked me what happens if they don't
go into his video, because he does go into a little bit more in depth about, what can happen with a no body murder or no body homicide.
Maybe they were fellow members of organized crime.
Watch this.
So you have these categories that these cases fit into, and a stranger on stranger no body murder case with an adult victim is highly, highly unusual.
Have you ever seen anything like it?
I could probably, if I went back and looked at my book, I could probably find, a few, but could I find more than 5 or 10? Probably not. I mean, certainly none come to mind of, when's the last time I saw seemingly stranger on stranger. We don't know if there was a relationship. Maybe this was someone who worked at her house. I don't know if there was yard work done there or, housework, those types of things, or maybe it was a neighbor or someone who knew her. But to a classic stranger on stranger removed from a house, never to be seen again, with no kidnap note. I don't know that I've seen that before, Brian.
And one other thing I was thinking about recently is this reward. It's up to like $1.2 million for information. It's a big reward.
Yes.
There's probably someone out there besides just the person on the doorbell camera that knows something, but is probably scared to come forward, fears prosecution. Is there anything law enforcement prosecutors can do to entice someone like that to come forward?
So I think rewards are a good tool. I don't think they work too often, because we don't often hear about a lot of cases that were solved because someone came forward for reward money. You hear a lot more about cases are solved because someone came forward to tell the police something to get what? Not a reward, something for themselves. I get locked up on something and I say, how am I going to get out of this case? I'm not doing it for reward money. I'm doing it so my butt is out of prison, and I know something about Brian that I can tell the police, and I know that Brian did X, Y, and Z, and now I'm getting a break on my case, and Brian's going to jail. That is often how we see no body murder cases resolved, much more so than rewards. It's when someone comes forward because they have something to lose and they have information that they can trade. Of course, you have people who come forward, neighbors, friends, people who maybe know the suspect and say, hey, something's up. That happens. But to me, the most common occurrence is you often have people come forward who know something and want to turn it into something that they can get an advantage for themselves.
So with Nancy Guthrie, there are some new reports out. It's now been almost 4 months, which is to wrap your mind around. But there are some new reports out that the feds are using what they're calling new tools to assist them with the investigation. We know that they've obviously had DNA, and then there's been stuff going on behind the scenes. But when you hear new tools, what comes to mind?
I think the main thing that comes to mind is if we're talking about DNA, new techniques to analyze that DNA. And there can be two types. There can one be, are there small samples of DNA that you can use new techniques to build a profile off of that perhaps a year ago you couldn't do that, and they're not necessarily run-of-the-mill techniques. The other, of course, is, are they now deciding we do have a profile, we haven't been able to match it to anyone that's in, CODIS or the DNA databases, and so therefore we're going to be using some type of genealogical profiling, which of course is also something that has happened recently, takes a lot more time, is very labor intensive. It really requires a particular skill set. But then could it also be some sort of enhancement of the front door? I don't remember exactly. It was a Ring camera. I know it was some type
Google
of
Nest,
camera.
similar
Google
to
Nest, the Nest camera.
Yeah.
Is there some way to enhance that? Is there some way to go into the metadata on the camera and say, this is the information that was captured? Because that happens all the time. Is once a real expert goes and looks at the data and says, oh, I can find something on here that we didn't know was on here before. So I suspect that they're using, the FBI and all the folks who have the best analytical technique, both in the forensic DNA side, as well as the what I'll call photography side, the video analysis side. I suspect that they're doing all of that possible, because those seem to be the only leads publicly that we know of. We know there was a photo, a video of the person coming to the door. We know that it sounds like there was DNA of someone who is not from that family left behind. So my guess is, absent some other quantum of evidence, they're trying to use the latest and best techniques to enhance what they already have.
Really appreciate.
Very possible. And I think that's really interesting and really good insight. I was surmising the other day, I did an entire episode on using AI to dump all the data in and have AI pick out patterns that a normal, person sitting at a desk would take weeks and months to do. Okay. And with all of the leads that they've gotten in this case, if they were able to dump it in some sort of an AI database, it could match patterns. If you've got more than one person calling in with the same lead or the same tip, or they're dropping the same name or something that matches, AI could spit that out into, bytes of information and identify patterns much, much more quickly. But as we just saw with this person Brian Enton was just interviewing, he's thinking that they might be using some advanced software for the video and being able to go in and maybe look and see if there was a car in the background. And we've only seen a small portion of the porch guy video. We know that they've got more. I'm 2000% sure that they have video of Nancy actually being taken out of the house. They have more video. They have more video from the night the porch guy was doing recon. They just haven't been, they just haven't released it to us. And I don't know if that's because perhaps it's too shocking. If there isn't anything that we can garner from it, if the additional video is just not helpful, it's hard to say. But there's so many reports that they don't have a suspect. That's all we're hearing is they are out of lead or not out of leads. They have leads, but they don't have any suspects. They're having to kind of start over. This task force is scratching their head. And according to statistics, there's nothing in this case that makes sense. This is a one of a kind crime that has occurred, which is just so sad. But going back to the video, what they released the video of porch guy on February 10th. And what did they say when they released it? We need your help. We need your help. Do you recognize this person? And then a few days later, they came out with the still video from January 11th of porch guy doing recon in his little Walmart outfit. Okay. Do you recognize this person? Okay. They put billboards up, which they didn't do a good job with the billboards, in my opinion. A lot of the public doesn't even know anything about Nancy Guthrie. Even to this day, we could go easily into the Tucson, Phoenix area. I guarantee you that there are tons of people, you go in anywhere and they're not going to know anything about it. Or maybe they heard about some lady missing, but they don't know her name. I mean, there's just a lot of people who do not pay attention to the news. Okay. But and if there is any law enforcement watching this or live or during replay, please reach out to me. I would like to interview law enforcement because, in my opinion, I think that they have a line on somebody, because if they didn't, wouldn't they be spending time taking the porch guy video and doing AI or fine-tuning the person, taking the mask off, getting us a profile pic, something in color, getting us more images, the ransom note? They would be asking the public for help. It's June 10th. So let's see. March, April, May, June, 4 months. It's 4 months to the day that they first came to us and said, we need your help. And here's a video. Have you seen this person? Do you recognize this person? So we know that law enforcement or FBI will come to the public when they need help. They need somewhere to start. If they're banging their head against a wall right now and they don't have, any really good angles, they would be coming to us. They would be giving us more, and they would be asking for more help. We've seen it before in other local crimes, when you've got the local chief or sheriff coming on TV, the local, evening news, and just saying, we need your help. Do you, and they ask for Ring cameras. They haven't even been asking for more Ring cameras. Maybe they have everything. It's hard to say. But if you did not catch my deep dive into AI tech and the tools I believe that the FBI is using, just look in my live videos, and we spend a good hour looking at everything that they possibly could be doing. So anyway, there is that. But this has definitely taken a toll on Savannah, and we have a video of her talking with Jenna Bush. And I'm going to put this on because, I do feel very strongly as well that Savannah knows that this is completely tied to her. And I'm going to probably do a part 10 of The Family Knows Who Kidnapped Nancy, because I've just seen so much. There isn't anything that has happened or come out that has dissuaded me from feeling that the family had known that Savannah had a fixated, I'm not going to say obsessed, because obsessed to me has a more romantic or sexual overtone. I think that this could be a fixated, maybe fan or stalker that had been communicating with her as early as, late 2025. Okay. And I think that the family knew that someone had been buzzing around, probably anonymously, using an encrypted either email or cell phone or something along those lines, to where they're digitally hidden. But I think that she knew that there was somebody buzzing around, and nobody, I'm not going to say they were totally surprised when Nancy went missing, but they immediately went to kidnap for ransom. Immediately. All of them went to kidnap for ransom. We know Annie was trying to tell law enforcement that day that her mother was taken. There was, no doubt in any of their minds. And as far as Savannah goes, she now has the enormous, endless, it's like dark matter. It's so heavy. If you think of space in a black hole and the dark matter, that, you can't even weigh it. It's so heavy. And this is what's inside of her. And, even when you have a family member who dies before their time, or has, there's trauma, meaning maybe they passed away in an automobile accident, something that, was just out of the blue, you're going to have more pain than you would, say, a mother who passes away naturally. Okay. It's expected. What's going to happen. It's a normal, path of things. And yes, this is her mother, but there's no answer. There's no end to this. There's no finality. There's no closure. And then thinking that it's something in your life that brought that on your mother is so psychologically damaging. The pain, it seeps into your DNA. And so I'll quit yapping, and let's watch this video of her talking with Jenna about her pain.
You know how much I adore you. Oh. And what I know all of us feel that way. When you walked in the makeup room earlier, there were claps and hugs, because you are beloved.
No. Well, I love coming here.
I know. And we love you here, and you're here. And it is National Best Friend Day. So we're celebrating the right way. But I've just marveled, as somebody who knows you and loves you, at your strength, you coming back here and leading the ship, which I know has not been easy. And yet here you are, morning after morning, getting out of bed, spending the mornings with us. And I know so many of you at home feel the same way about you.
Well, first of all, I can't really even look at you every day without crying. You are my best friend. And, it's really hard to come back. And I've been trying so hard to hold it together, and I promise I will. This show and this hour especially is like about joy, but having you and all my everyone at the people behind the scenes, people in my ear, the producers, our castmates, it's like, when I see you in the morning, I know that you see me no matter what is going on. And sometimes it's almost too much, because I feel like to do the job, I gotta keep it together, pull it together, but I'm happy to be back. And it's like the 2 hours of my day that, it's not that I'm not thinking about it, because I am, but it's something to do. And, it brings me a lot of joy to be with everybody. But no, it's not easy.
No, I know it's not easy. And it also speaks, I think, to the fact that, I remember even when I started here, and I'm sure you've heard him, my dad sort of made fun of the way we call each other family. He's like, how's the family? But we really do work at a place where people surround you with love, like you're loved, and so there must be some tiny bit of, and relief isn't even the word. I don't even know what it is, but like a spark of something.
It is. It's a little respite. And you are my family. I mean, I don't think if I had any other kind of job, I would have even tried to come back.
Yeah.
You know, but I was like, well, I didn't, you know, I just felt like, well, what else should I do? And my mom would have said the same, like, honey, you know, just keep going, just keep going. And so I am, you know, and it's hard when you're with your best friend to not be real. So I was a little afraid in a way to do the show with you. You've asked me before, like, which are so sweet, you know, come on, you want to fill in? And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready, because I couldn't look at you in this kind of setting where we just talk about life and not tell the truth about my life. And so,
and we have
you know, I think, you know, I know maybe people wonder, like, whoa, what's going on? How is she able to do that job? Is she not thinking about it? Did she forget? No, never.
And neither have we. Like, we'll have your back. We'll be with you forever with this, and never forget.
And we still need everybody's prayers.
Nancy.
We still wish someone would call and say what they know.
And I think
truth.
I once had a conversation about our friendship randomly. This philosopher was sort of asking about the people. He said, well, do you have a good connections at work? And I said, yeah, Savannah is like this really close friend. And actually we bonded around faith. She's the godmother of my son, Hal. You know, and he said, and I love this so much, he said, the truest form of relationship is when you surround about something higher, when you're both focused on something bigger than just yourselves, that you're both into something that's beautiful. And I like, your faith is a marvel.
Well, I'm working it out, you know, it's like step by step. It isn't easy. I mean, you know, like all the cliches and the easy things that people say, and, you know, they provide some comfort. There's a reason that people say them, but, you know, I read a book of old sermons, and, you know, there's this famous phrase about, like, a famous scripture about, you know, you'll soar like on wings like eagles, but there's a part of it which says you'll walk and not grow faint. And this sermon that I read talked about that, and how there's a time in life when just walking and not growing faint is about as good as it can get. And that's what I feel like I'm doing. I'm trying to walk and not grow faint. And it's a gift from God that I'm able to do so. But it's always with me, you know. I mean, I cry every morning on the way to work, and I cry every morning on the way home. And I'm grateful to have good friends and to be able to come to such a beautiful and joyous and supportive place. And
yep, she cries on the way to work, and she cries on the way home. And I'm going to bet that she cries a lot more than that. She probably cries in the shower. She cries in the middle of the night. It's just too much to bear, you know. And for her, you know, along with my theory that the family knows, you know, how this whole thing evolved is because somebody had been following Savannah, and she's put this on her own shoulders. It's not, you know, it shouldn't be on her shoulders. It's not her fault. You can't control other people. You can only control yourself. But she has put this on her shoulders, and she is so brave. She is so brave. And I think that the only thing that she could do, honestly, is stay at work, because if she wasn't at work, she would be going, cuckoo. And yes, you're right, Joe. Good evening, Joe. Yes, we have information that the family did not hire a private investigator. And I am, of course, not in my Crime Crunchy lair, so hopefully the internet participates tonight, because it seems like, depending on where I go. All right, so we're going to look at, so YouTubers were arrested And so I'm going to go live tomorrow night. I'm going to find out, Joe, if there's anything I can find out about how we got bad information about them hiring a PI. I'm going to look into that and see if there's anything I can find tomorrow. And I've got a couple other things I'm going to talk about because I've got kind of a potpourri of things tonight. But again, if you're just joining me, law enforcement is, I guess, officially labeling this a homicide investigation, whereas we kind of all knew it was a homicide investigation. They're coming out, but not only is this a homicide investigation, it is really turning into a no body homicide investigation. And that just means that if they do get a perpetrator, that they would move forward with the scales of justice, sans the body, if they have to. And it's interesting because watching the interview that Brian Enton conducted, I mean, nothing makes sense with this. He even, the person Brian was interviewing even said that it doesn't mean that you stop looking for a body. You need to continue looking for a body, you know, until sentencing of whoever ends up getting caught for this. And it just doesn't look like they've been looking for a body. They stopped searching. And like after the first week or two, there were no more dogs. There are volunteer groups that are out there searching for her. And I'm going to look into this for my show tomorrow night as well, because there are people supposedly out there volunteering and they're still searching for her. But boy, it would be really, really nice to have law enforcement, you know, taking up Texas EcuSearch and the Cajun Navy, these people that were and are willing to come in and continue searching, because it would be better if they had even just skeletal remains. Maybe they can tell a manner of death, a cause of death, you know, anything, and then really just get it back to the family. So there are some, and I just don't understand this, there are some knuckleheads who have YouTubers who have been hanging around in Nancy's neighborhood. There's nothing to see. I went to her neighborhood and there's no, it's like 1.5 lane. It's enough for 2 cars to pass each other. Okay. But there's nothing on the side. The desert comes right up to the road. It's blacktop road. And there's absolutely nowhere to really set up unless you're sitting on rocks in shrubbery without having your stuff kind of on the road. And at this point, there's nothing to see. So there are 3 men arrested in the neighborhood. When you go into the neighborhood, a mile away from Nancy's house, there are, you know, the little plastic tent signs everywhere at the entrance of every single street, even streets that are off the main drag, every single street into every single branch of this neighborhood, there are plastic signs saying no parking, no loitering. I am guilty. I did stop. There was a little spot down the way and over to the right where I could leave my car running. And I did a really crappy live because there's no cell signal and it was really broken up and cut up. But I did go to the memorial a couple times, and there were some neighbors who walked by and were standing at my rental car. They knew it was my car. Okay. I was the only one there. And they stood taking pictures of the license plate. And I get it. They're so sick of people coming and hanging out. But there are signs, you know, if a sheriff had come up to me and said, you need to go, I would have said, no problem. I would have gotten in my vehicle and I would have left. But apparently there are 3 YouTubers who are set up and they've been asked to leave. And they were arrested on Monday after complaints that they were blocking roadways, disturbing the peace, and trespassing, according to PCSO, Pima County Sheriff Office. So, quote, deputies initially issued warnings followed by the posting of no trespassing signs and the issuance of citations for violations. So despite those efforts, these individuals continue to disregard the law. So they deserve to be arrested at that point. I'm telling you, there is nothing to see. There is nothing to see. There's no movement at her house. There are no trespassing signs. I don't know if they took the memorial down, but there's nothing to see. Officials said 54-year-old Alexander Zabel Jr. and 34-year-old Troy Lewis Bradshaw were booked into the Pima County Adult Detention Center. Zabel Jr. is facing 2 counts of obstructing a highway or thoroughfare and 1 count of public nuisance. Authorities said Bradshaw is facing a count of public nuisance. A third man, 46-year-old Damian Todd Enderl, was cited and released for 1 count of public nuisance. Sheriff Nanos will no longer tolerate behavior that disrupts the community or violates the law. Effective immediately, individuals found in violation of the law may be cited and released on a first offense. However, repeat offenders may be arrested and booked into the Pima County Adult Detention Complex on charges of public nuisance under Arizona Revised Statute 13297, Class 2 misdemeanor. Okay, so yes, they obviously didn't care. Let's see, Melanie is saying those allegations aren't factual. If you watch live streams, maybe. I haven't watched the live streams of these people. All I know is that there are clear signs in every single street and branch off of the streets. Every single branch and street has signs that say no trespassing, no parking, private neighborhood. So I think that it should have been one time that they were asked to leave and they should have left. And so maybe I don't know all the facts and I will look into it, but this is what's really weird. And if this is not true, let me know, Melanie. Absolutely, because documents reveal Nancy Guthrie, streamer, accused of setting up P tent. So let's watch this and see what they have to say. If they had a P tent.
Grainger offers professional-grade products, easy ordering, and next-day delivery, making them the go-to play for everyone keeping arenas game day ready. Call, click, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Here we go. What you are looking at right now is exterior outside of Nancy Guthrie's residence. And today, the Pima County Sheriff's Department announced that they have officially arrested 3 individuals who identified themselves as social media streamers in the Foothills neighborhood, again, where Nancy Guthrie originally was reported missing. The Sheriff's Department has received numerous complaints about these individuals blocking roadways, trespassing, and disrupting the peace in this neighborhood. Now, deputies initially issued warnings, followed by posting of no trespassing signs and the issuance of citations for violations. Despite those efforts, some individuals continue to disregard the law. After reviewing the video evidence showing one of these arrestees urinating in public behind a makeshift tent, Sheriff Chris Nanos directed deputies to take a stronger enforcement approach.
Oh my
this
God.
directly from that confirmation that PCSD gave to us. Sheriff Nanos will no longer tolerate behavior that disrupts the community or violates the law. Effective immediately, individuals found in violation of the law may be cited and released on a first offense. However, repeat offenders may be arrested and booked into the Pima County Adult Detention Complex on charges of public nuisance under Arizona Revised Status 132917, a Class 2 misdemeanor. Now, 2 of the 3 individuals today booked into that Pima County Adult Detention Complex, Alexander Zabel Jr., 54, officially charged with 2 counts of obstructing a highway or thoroughfare and 1 count of public nuisance. Now, Troy Lewis Bradshaw, 34, was charged today with 1 count of public nuisance, and a third individual, Damian Todd Inderl, 46, was charged with 1 count of a public nuisance. He was cited and released. As of this moment, that is all the information that we have.
Yeah, it's a bit redundant, but I mean, come on. I'm sorry. What grown man? Alex was arrested at his house. I heard, this is from Joe, I heard one person is using different voices and calling the sheriff constantly. Are they prank calling the sheriff, like to mess with them? This is what children do. I want to see about this P10 because that is public indecency. I don't think that there's a lot of kids in the area. This is mostly. Okay, so according to PCSD document, Zabel set up his P tent on a road in the neighborhood on June 6th. Quote, due to the sensitivity and proximity to the high-profile address, Alexander made an offensive setting in the middle of the neighborhood, causing an obstructive to the free use of property that interferes with the comfortable enjoyment of life of property by the entire community. And this is a walking neighborhood. People are walking their dogs, they're walking, it's nature, it's beautiful. According to Bradshaw's ticket, he was live streaming on the side of the road, causing a nuisance to others who reside in the neighborhood. If he was going to the bathroom, I feel like they are pranking the neighborhood. I feel like they're messing with the neighbors. And Joe, if what you say that they're calling the sheriff using different voices, they must be doing it as clickbait. You know, I won't even watch JLR. I know a lot of people love JLR, but I feel like he's just doing clickbait. I don't know. He was definitely boots on the ground and was getting us really good information, but I'm not sure that he's giving us anything that's useful at this point. Okay, so there's that. Those people were arrested, and one of them had a P tent. So they are cracking down on the neighborhood. All right, so we also have had another weird situation of 7 miles away. There is a woman who is being sought in a kidnap case. Let's see. Wanted woman may hold clues in Nancy Guthrie case. All right, so let's watch this. This has got Chris McDonough. All right, let me get this. Okay, I'm pulling up my screen. This is your chance to subscribe to Crime Crunchies. You know you want to. It's free. I like free. Think of me as the Dollar Tree of YouTube, but with good stuff. All right, so we're going to watch Jesse Weber live. He's going to talk to Chris McDonough about this other kidnapping situation with a woman named Coral, and Surviving the Survivor actually had somebody on last night who is a retired Pima County Sheriff's Department person, law enforcement person, and he actually remembers arresting Coral several times, and he assures the viewers of Surviving the Survivor that Coral has nothing to do with Nancy Guthrie, that Coral is more of a drug situation. But let's see what Chris McDonough has to say, because again, people do talk. How you get information is you go to the jails and you talk to criminals. So let's watch.
As a fourth-generation American farmer, I know our country is the best farmers in the world.
When you want to see the Nancy Guthrie case solved as badly as we do, you don't chase every single potential development nearby, but you also don't ignore the ones that stand out. like tonight's. A woman is on the run in Arizona, wanted in connection with a kidnapping and aggravated assault that occurred on May 29th, less than 7 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home in Tucson. The Pima County Sheriff's Department has issued a wanted alert for 40-year-old Coral Michelle Smith, and they urge residents to be on the lookout for her, but do not approach her. Got to be clear about something. Smith is not just any fugitive. She has a long and violent history in Pima County, dating back 15 years. According to KOLD 13 News, she was found guilty of robbery in 2011. 2014, she was found guilty of disorderly conduct and attempted vehicle theft. 2019, another robbery. That same year, she was also charged with kidnapping and drug charges, with the alleged victim listed as under 15 years old, according to the New York Post. But those charges were eventually dismissed. By the way, you still with me? Because we're not done. 2021, Smith was found guilty of criminal trespass. 2022, another attempted vehicle theft. 2023, she was found guilty of aggravated assault with physical injury. Did you know Smith has served a total of 4 separate prison sentences?
Damn.
She's also apparently used multiple aliases, including this unusual name, Under the Sea Smith. Now, why are we telling you about this? Because authorities have, to be clear, they haven't connected this woman to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. In fact, the Pima County Sheriff's Office confirmed to our team today the cases are not related. We're talking about this case because good investigations don't just look at the evidence. They look at the people, the patterns, the local criminal activity surrounding
I know someone.
Does Smith have any information about Nancy? Does her case provide investigators any answers or clues or leads as to what happened to Nancy? My next guest knows exactly how investigators think through developments like this. Chris Madonna is a retired homicide detective and director of the Cold Case Foundation and worked on some of the nation's most high-profile investigations, including John Benet Ramsey and Elizabeth Smart. Good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for taking the time. Look, authorities have been very clear. They have not connected this woman to Guthrie. But if you're working that case, to me, it feels like the kind of development you can't ignore. You have to look at and process, right?
Yeah, most definitely, Jesse. I mean, in any major, missing person or abduction type of investigation, the investigators are going to cast a wide net, specifically for anybody within the local, area who has a violent kidnapping, quote, history. And of course, her criminal background as a whole. So this would be a very standard protocol to try to find her and see if they could connect her in any way, shape, or form.
So if they catch her, let's say they catch her tomorrow, do you imagine they would ask her about Nancy Guthrie?
Yeah, I mean, if they capture her tomorrow, obviously, they're gonna do what we would call a soft approach to her, right? It wouldn't be accusatory. They would lead the conversations. Obviously, she'd be in custody, so they'd have to read her Miranda, and then they're going to ask her about any familiarity around the Guthrie home, et cetera. And then, what's the word on the street? And that's going to kind of give them a sense of whether or not she herself may be involved and or has heard anything floating around the criminal networks.
We see that in movies, right? Like, what did you hear? What did your sources say? What are you hearing on the street? But that's a real thing, right? Like the criminal community, it's not like a country club, but I have to imagine, know about other people participating in crimes or if there's certain, the capers coming around. I don't know for the lack of a better word. Because if you're looking at what happened to Nancy, right, let's assume that person is local. Let's say that's somebody who operates, and let's say that's somebody who, I'm talking about the person in the mask, has committed a crime before. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that she may have information about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, they're going to frame their questions, very open-ended, like, have you heard anything on the street about the missing woman in Catalina? And so it's going to be a very interesting piece of this puzzle. She may not be involved in any way, shape, or form, but she may have information that may connect something. And of course, there's $1 million sitting there in a reward fund.
And if she's facing serious charges, maybe they would work out a deal. We're speculating a lot, but here's the part I don't understand. How can they say to us that it's not connected now is because, there's really nothing on its face to connect? Are they being honest with us? Or how do they exactly know that it has no connection to Nancy Guthrie whatsoever?
Well, in this particular situation, they would probably look at her MO of the very, in cases that she's been involved in for kidnapping. And they would measure that against the circumstances involving Miss Guthrie. And obviously 84 years old, home alone in her own bed. And they would measure those two cases together in what we call a criminal investigative analysis.
Do you think they're being honest with us?
I believe so. Yeah, and that the fact that this is being pushed out as a be on the lookout to patrol, I am quite concerned though that it did hit the public so soon. And I don't know what would have been the motivation for that. It should have stayed within law enforcement quarters.
That's interesting. Real quick, Nancy Guthrie, we know the DNA.
Maybe they're saying something without saying something. You know what I mean? If Chris is saying that he thinks it's odd that they release this to the public so quickly, I mean, maybe this is a subliminal, we need more information. Maybe she is. I mean, it's hard to say. They're not going to tell us. They're not going to play all their cards.
DNA is still being processed. We got 15 seconds. What do you think's happening behind the scenes?
Jesse, I think at this point, they're going to circle back from day one and try to look into the first 24 to 48 hours. Typically, in these types of cases, your suspects are in the first 300 pages of something or somebody.
Chris McDonough, always good.
Okay, so that's interesting. And even Chris is saying that he believes that they are probably circling back around, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just me having wishful thinking that they really have somebody. I cannot imagine that they're not going to ask the public for more help in identifying. That is the fastest way to get intel on somebody. If they truly are running into a brick road with digital evidence, cell phones, no cars, blah, 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 and they are, dumping it into AI and they're not finding any patterns, going to the street, going to people is really, to me, the fastest way they're going to get intel. And if Chris is saying that he thinks it's odd that they dump this, Coral kidnapping thing on people, and yeah, it's a bolo right now, be on the lookout, but I don't know, maybe they're asking without asking, if that makes sense. Jan, I hope this is not true. I'm not the most serious person. I have a silly sense of humor, but I don't think that this is funny. If people are really dressing up as porch guy around her house, I'm not sure what that is. I think that there's something wrong with these people. I really do. And I think that they're missing some sort of an empathy or humanoid chip, because this is a real situation. Let's see. Here is a quick. This is about Coral Smith. I'm just looking at my next article, and honestly, I'm not sure that it's going to add any more. I'm just looking at my next article here, and I'm seeing if it makes sense for me to play it. And what Chris is saying, as far as they're going to look at this Coral woman, and they're going to look at her rap sheet, and they're going to see her MO. And while I agree with that, because I'm not in law enforcement, I don't know. I mean, I think that this case with Nancy has broken every MO, and I can't see why they wouldn't break an MO of somebody, because nothing makes sense. So I'll just share my screen and we'll talk about this, and then we'll make this our last article of the evening. All right, so this is still on Coral, and Nancy Guthrie investigators finally weigh in on hunt for kidnapped suspect near missing grandma home. An Arizona woman, let me make this bigger. So if you guys want to follow along, you can. An Arizona woman wanted for armed kidnapping, which is interesting because porch guy had a gun near the Tucson home where Nancy Guthrie vanished is not connected to the missing grandmother's case, police finally revealed Tuesday, putting an end to rampant. But I don't know. If this is coming from Nanos's little puddin' mouth himself, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm buying it. My opinion. Coral Michelle Smith, 40, is wanted for a May 29th kidnapping and aggravated assault. I mean, who does that? Who's she kidnapping? That's what we need to, let's read and see if we can find out more. Okay, come on, article. May 29th, kidnapping and aggravated assault. Just 7 miles from Nancy's house, but police told the Post her case has nothing to do with the 84-year-old's February 1st kidnapping, which captivated the nation. Police issued a wanted flyer for Smith, a career criminal, last weekend, but provided few details, and that reticence, coupled with the proximity of her alleged crime to Nancy's home, sparked speculation that she could be wanted in connection. I mean, and she looks like a nice lady. I mean, you know, the person on Surviving the Survivor said that, again, the first time he arrested her, she was 15, and that she hangs out with career drug and meth people. But officials poured cold water on these hopes, saying this case is not related to the Guthrie investigation. But who kidnaps with a gun? I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know. There seemed to be, and again, maybe she's not connected, but what does she know? No leads have been announced in the more than 4 months since Nancy vanished. And more info about Nancy that we all know. We all know. I'm not going to read this because we all know. And then we're hearing about the guys that got arrested because they had pea tents in the road. Good Lord. These people are just looking for clickbait and money. They don't care. You know, I'm sorry, if you have a pea tent on Nancy Guthrie Street, you don't care about Nancy Guthrie. You don't care. You're doing this just to make a quick buck. I'm sorry. And if you're dressing up as Porch Guy, I'm guessing you're doing it for a video, or if you're calling the sheriff constantly using different voices. You don't care about Nancy. You're doing it for money. And that's not nice. It's not nice. Oh my gosh, you guys, just a lot of drama. All right, well, I'm going to look into a few things. I'm going to come back on tomorrow night and we're going to hang out and take a look into a few other things. And I don't know, we're just going to hang out. We're going to hang out and talk Nancy Guthrie all day, every day until something happens. Because I'm not convinced that what we hear on the boob tube is what is really happening. Again, might be helpful thinking, but I don't know. I just think that if they needed help, they would ask for help, and they're not. Other than this Coral chick, they're not asking for help. So thank you so much, everybody. I love you so much. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight. Please subscribe and hit the bell for more live content. And I will catch you on the next time. And I will catch you on the flip side. Toodaloo.